Hello and welcome to another Hairy Chats podcast. This time I'm going to introduce you to a very, very famous person called Wendy Iles. Wendy Iles, believe it or not, comes from the Apple Isle in Australia, Tasmania. She started her hairdressing career there and set her sights on Paris. This girl has lived in Paris for 27 years. As a freelance hairdresser, she has done the hair of the most famous actresses, some of the most unique campaigns from hair to makeup and fashion. She is the epitome of what a session stylist is all about. She's also created Iles Formula, an amazing product brand which is now worldwide. What a wonderful opportunity to sit down and talk with her. So I suggest you grab a cup of coffee, take some time out and listen to this amazing hairy chat with Wendy Iles. So Wendy, tell me, I hear that you actually started in your hairdressing career in Tasmania, is that right?
Absolutely. So I was very young, just finishing high school, in fact, and I was offered 3 apprenticeships from the local village.
Wow.
And that is because I was in that situation growing up. Everybody knew that Wendy was to be the hairdresser because hair was, I don't like to use that word so much, but it's really, really a fact, obsessed with hair since I was a child.
Right.
And so I was very young. I was just coming on to my 16th birthday, and I had a choice between what salons to
That's amazing.
start my apprenticeship with. And it's interesting because my hairdressing career after that took a much higher platform because I guess the biggest education I had was with Sassoon in London. After I'd done that little training in that salon, the big training in that little salon in Tasmania.
So that was 4 years you did your apprenticeship there?
Yeah, absolutely. And
what town was that? What part of Tassie is that?
Devonport, Tasmania.
Oh, okay, right. Yes, I know it.
Where I grew up. And it's interesting today as a freelance hairdresser how much information I pull from those salon days in Tasmania, because that's the training. You know, at Sassoon, for example, I learned to precision haircut.
Mm-hmm.
I learned all about colour and perm on a very high level back then. But that salon taught me to do a roller set, to do a salon, a coif. It taught me all those styles that you just never touched on at Sassoon. And interestingly enough, the work that we do for editorials, for beautiful Vogue spreads, Elle spreads, advertising campaigns, whatever it may be, I had that information from that salon training.
So they taught really good technical skills, good basic skills.
How to do a finger wave.
Yeah.
How to apply, how to place a roller perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
This is education that's missed a lot today.
Oh, it's absolutely. It's totally overlooked. And I think that's why I have such a career, a longevity in this industry, because I'm from that background as well. So, I learned that setting and putting people under dryers and combing them up and making their sets last for a week. So, that it puts you in good stead, doesn't it? And obviously it's been really great for you for your career.
For me, it completed my education, in fact. And especially, interestingly enough, I'm pulling on that education all the time because the last couple of decades, I haven't really been cutting. I mean, my celebrities ask me to cut their hair, and I do it because, my Sassoon methods are engraved into my DNA. You don't lose that. It's like riding a bike. But it's not like I'm on the floor cutting continually. No, I'm not. I'm quaffing more than I'm cutting.
Yeah. And so you left Devonport. Where did you go from there? Did you go straight to London?
No, London was way before, in fact. In fact, I was one of the first to bring back to Australia the Vidal Sassoon technique.
Wow.
And I was married at the time with an Australian who built me a fabulous salon. And we opened the doors with this sassoon technique. I mean, I had a 6-week waiting list in that salon.
That's incredible. And that was all in Tasmania?
All in Tasmania.
Wow.
So a 6-week waiting list. I had women that used to drive 7 hours in a car to come for their 6-week haircuts. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So it was quite revolutionary at that moment. And then in time, we sold that salon. We were offered a very good offer for it. And in a sense, it sort of broke my heart because it was my baby. But I couldn't live in the same town with another owner in my salon.
No.
So we moved to the mainland. And that's when I fell into freelance work, which I didn't know existed. So, and until today, I'm still freelancing.
So how did you get that first gig? I mean, a lot of people want to do this, and they often ask, what do I need to do from the salon to actually get in the door to start even considering freelance?
I mean, honestly, I have to say it was sheer luck and having the confidence to say yes. So I was freelancing out of a salon in Melbourne. I have a block, Edward Beale Salon.
Oh, of course.
And I received a phone call one day, and it just happened to be Vogue Australia to see if I would do the hair on a shooting with, at the time, Monty Cole, who was the hot photographer in Melbourne and shooting a lot of Vogue. So it was one of those opportunities that just fell into my lap. I went to that shooting not even really knowing what to pack.
Yes.
I mean, when I look at what I took to what I take today, it was amazing that I even arrived to do what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Anyway, they must have liked it and continued to book me. And then I started to realize that as a hairdresser, you can have this whole other life and actually travel the world with it. So that became quite busy. I got an agent, which one has to do when you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
And it just went out of control. And then I thought, okay, this is great. I've done everything I want to do in Sydney. Let's look elsewhere. And at that time, I hit on New York.
Right.
But there was always this fascination with France. Always.
Yeah.
And then, long story short, finally, here I am living in France the last 27 years with my freelance work. So the vehicle was the freelance that brought me here.
Isn't that incredible? So would you say that it was just luck, or, was there wheels within wheels that you got that phone call? Did you have to,
Certainly luck, but, there's many doors that open in one's career. You just have to have the courage to say yes and do it, or go after it. No matter, I mean, when Vogue Australia calls, it's pretty nerve-wracking, especially if you don't know what they want from you, which was my case. And I have to say, I'm sort of proud that I do push myself to the limit sometimes, because then other doors open. But it would be so comfortable to say no.
Well, I must say, like, when I was working with Goldwell in Germany, I met with Kevin Cameron, who you would have remembered from the Goldwell.
Very good client of mine.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And he just, spoke so highly of you. And it was that conversation that I had with him that made me start exploring what you were doing and following all your different chats and blogs and things like that, because I was just fascinated. And one of the things that he spoke about was your ability to do things with hair that nobody else could do, like flip hair around and do all this crazy stuff. And I was just so intrigued by all of that.
Look, I eat hair. I dream hair. My DNA is hair. And I think when you love the texture that you're working with, it transforms. You can. And one of the secrets I will say, that what he's talking about is that I can be on set 12 hours a day, 18 hours a day, and the hair will still keep obeying. And the reason that is because I don't use styling product.
Yes.
So I count on, and we're going back to that salon experience or that salon education that I had. I count on my base. I would never allow a junior working beside me to do the base for me. No matter how busy I am, it's the most important part of my day. And I'm thinking about every turn of the brush, every placement that I make. I'm consciously thinking, what is that going to transform into the hair at the end? So I know my base is a perfect one. If my base is a perfect one, I can make that hair do anything I command. So that's the way I work. And I use one product, in fact. For years, I was making up this product at home. Today, it is much more evolved because it has the UV filters, the heat protection, and everything else in it that you can do when you're working alongside scientists. But it's actually my finishing serum, and I don't touch a head of hair without it.
Right.
It is the product that calms down the frizzies if I have backlight on a subject. It gives the most glorious shine. It just never weighs the hair down, and it just makes the hair very supple and obedient.
I could imagine that you've worked with the L'Oreal and created some of those beautiful Kerastars hair. Are you behind that?
Oh, gosh. There was a whole decade. I was doing 4 international flights a week.
Wow.
That's how my hair care range got born, Iles Formula, on those sets. So I was doing at the peak, 4 international flights a week, just traveling the globe doing hair campaigns. Hair campaigns for all the companies that you know.
Yes.
Kerastars was a client of mine.
Yeah. You know, this no product thing is quite unique in a sense, because a lot of people are pretty heavily dose on products. I know when I was working with Goldwell, they were emphatic that anything I did, particularly with the colour campaigns, they were not to have any products at all.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're dead before you start, especially with hairspray.
Yes.
Hairspray blocks memory, as does mousse and anything that creates a form and holds it. And I believe that the more insecure a hairdresser is, the more product they will use. They tend to hide behind it. I'd give masterclasses actually these days to teach people to have confidence in their trade and to just have one day with me without using styling product. They are amazed what they can do with the hair without styling product. I mean, if you want a stiff, sticky or a stiff gelled mohawk or something.
Oh, yeah, that's a different story. But when we're looking at movable, beautiful, floaty hair.
Yeah. But if you want sumptuous, lustrous, fantastic hair that just obeys your command, forget about styling products. Because the moment you put hairspray on it, you block the memory. And if you need to go back in with an iron or heat of any form to change the direction, for example, if you have any styling product on, like a mousse or a spray, you're dead before you start, because the hair will never be as spontaneous as what it was before you put that product on.
Wow, that's so interesting. So I take it that's why your product range that you've launched is predominantly more shampoos and treatments. And
it's all about care and repair. And honestly, it's really the philosophy of the hairdresser that I am. It's about beautiful, beautiful, lustrous hair.
So tell me, how then do you attack an Australian model that's obviously has been a little bit lacking in her hair, you know, looking after her hair and does a lot of beach, and they come to you looking like a fried up old chip? How do you respond to that if you're not using a lot of products?
Well, it depends on what we're doing. If I'm doing a hair campaign, I have running water.
Yes.
So my product is an instant fix.
Right.
Instant. It repairs.
Yes.
It will take straw to repair sumptuous silk. Now, the finishing serum on a set where I'm not doing a hair campaign, well, I don't do hair campaigns anymore, by the way, because now I'm a brand. But in the day when I was doing them, I always had running water. But on a set for, it could be an editorial or a skincare campaign or a perfume campaign, one doesn't have running water. You have to work with what you've got in your chair. So this is where the finishing serum comes in, because the finishing serum has the ability to transform straw, dried up, crackly hair. Just by blow drying it into wet hair, it will transform it to sumptuous silk.
Wow.
But it doesn't repair. It delivers that texture, but it's a cosmetic. To repair, you have to do the shampoo and the conditioner.
Sounds like you've done a lot of hard work to get to that place to create these products.
No, because it was never in my mind to be a brand, ever.
Is that right?
No, never. That takes an enormous amount of courage. Iles Formula is a brand today because it just organically happened. So I was using my product on a lot of these campaigns that I was working on.
Mm-hmm.
And the celebrities could see what I was doing with these 3 products. They started to give me orders. They were giving me, started off with an order, and then I can't deliver because I'm not manufacturing. I was just making it for me. I used to go into the lab once a year, usually just after Christmas, during the Christmas break, first weeks of January, and make up enough product to do my highway for a year. And then the next year go back in. So it was really my product. It was not for anybody else. I could not give an iota of it away to anybody. It was so precious. And then they started to give me 6-month orders, and then they started to give me a year's orders. And that was the turning point where I said to my husband, who actually is from import-export, so I could never have launched this business on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, look, let's do it. I mean, even if just Hollywood buy your product, it's a very nice little business. And how fantastic when you know that you've got a year's order for somebody.
Yes.
You just go in once a year and do it.
Yes, yes,
so
fantastic.
Right. But word of mouth goes very fast.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
And then we had a lot of salons knocking. And now we're global 3.5 years later.
That is such a credit to you. Well done.
Was not meant to happen. It was just one of those things. I just jumped off the cliff and went with it.
Well, it must be an incredibly unique product to have done so well. Most brands would only dream of that.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have to say, we tick a lot of boxes there.
So when you talk about Hollywood, who do you look after? I know Heidi Klimmer's looking like a dear friend as well as a client.
Yes, it's because Heidi does those very long stretch jobs. You get a job with Heidi, you're with her for like 7-8 weeks nonstop. So, it becomes more than a client hairdresser relationship.
Yes.
It becomes more a friend base, but she's still my client.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of French actresses, Marion Cotillard, Chloe Sevigny, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Charlotte Gainsbourg, Sharon Stone, Keira Knightley.
So you've had a lovely opportunity to work with some very beautiful women. Who's your favourite then?
Oh, gosh, it's hard to say. I don't really have a favourite. I respect all of them. They're all very beautiful women to work beside, very smart, very well-educated women. They're all a pleasure to be around.
That's amazing. And tell me your book. Tell us about your book, because that looks very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting now to look back on that book, because that book was published in 2008. It was a long time ago. So I had this Berlin publishing company called Print Culture that approached me and said we would like to do a coffee table book. This is another one of those wow moments where it fell from the sky into my lap. And they said, we'd like to do a coffee table book on your European archives, meaning my editorial work. Well, actually, it started off with, we want to do more about your celebrity work.
Right.
And I came up with the idea, well, let's make it more the editorial work rather than the celebrity work. Because when you do celebrity hair, it's basically their hair.
Yeah.
There's no poetic expression, not much. It's about the person they are and the personage they are. So I could imagine it would possibly be quite boring just to see celebrity after celebrity after celebrity with similar pretty hair. So they liked that idea. I sent them 2,000 tear sheets from all editorial work. And then they made the mix. And I mean, there's some pictures there I wouldn't have chosen, and others I'm think, why didn't they choose that? However, in the end, when you look at it, they've done a beautiful curation, because even to pick up that book today, they're all kind of timeless.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked myself that question, why is that? Because there's all sorts of hairstyles in there. And I think it comes back to that point that I don't use styling product.
Yeah.
So the hair, whether it is, in fact, I did mohawks in there without styling product, whether it is a 50s coif or a 40s retro or an 80s bouffant or a 90s undone, the key that pulls it all together is the fact of the texture of the hair. It's touchable hair always.
Yeah, just looks believable.
And I think that kept it modern. I really do.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what is the difference, isn't it? And when you think of magazines, you've obviously worked with, are there any you haven't worked with? I guess that would be a question, because it seems like your portfolio.
Most of them. I mean, I'm doing much less now of the freelance work, because Iles Formula is it's just taking every breath I breathe, in fact. But that's okay. I'm ready.
It's your next stage then, isn't it?
Sort of is. I know I'm going to end up behind a desk.
Oh, no, be the face. Be out there.
Oh, it's bypassing me. It's becoming very famous, Iles Formula now. I think it'll completely bypass me. But, I'm still holding on to the reins.
Yeah, make sure you just still keep that comb in your hand and not a pen.
No, I still am, because I'm still accepting jobs that please me to do them. So.
Yeah. And
when
I
realise that mustn't get off the bike.
When you think of your career highlights, and I'm sure there's so many, what's a couple that come to mind?
Highlights.
Is there sort of something you think you pinch yourself over?
Well, I guess the book was a big one.
Yes, of course.
Because that was actually quite special. And, of course, Iles Formula is my biggest highlight. I know I'm going to think of something that I forgot to tell you.
What's an editorial one? Is there any particular, sort of editorial that you've created that you think, oh, my God, I gave blood for that and I'm most proud of that?
I guess there was a moment which was pretty awesome, because one doesn't get to work with Hollywood film directors. So I did a Chanel shoot with Martin Scorsese.
Wow.
Which I shouldn't really say this, but my agent sent me an email and said, Martin Scorsese's office is asking for you for this Chanel campaign. And I wrote back, because I'm not really, we're going back about 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So, and I wrote back and said, who's Martin Scorsese?
Yes.
So she sent me a link and said, Wendy, do your homework. So, of course I want to do this. And it's interesting because I'm going to show you something. I don't know if you see that tableau.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was from that Chanel film.
Wow.
These were on the wall while we were filming. And at the end, I said, I think that's the perfect size for my walls back in France. So they took off the canvas and rolled them up for me and offered them to me.
Oh, my God. What a treat.
So, it wasn't just about working with Martin Scorsese. I have two fabulous tableaus in my living room.
And a constant reminder.
An homage to that job.
And what about fashion designers? Who've been your favourite people to collaborate with?
Albert Albaz, perhaps, from Lancôme.
Right.
From Lanvin, sorry.
Yes.
Lanvin, I think back in the day, he created the most spectacular clothes. He's disappeared a bit today, but he was somebody that really impressed me. To watch him work was to watch great artists. There was so much delicacy in the way that he worked. Karl Lagerfeld was a big experience to work in a completely different character to out there. I guess they are the two that are the ones that really.
And what about photographers? Any fabulous photographers that
Well, I love to work with Rankin, and I still work with Rankin.
Why is he unique?
He's done everything from rock and roll to royalty.
Yeah.
And I could say that he's really a great friend today. So that's a nice friendship that grew.
And what age is that? What age is he?
Oh, I have no idea. He's one of those ageless types.
Yeah, I was looking up somewhere recently, and his face came, and I sort of thought, oh, I probably should do Wikipedia and check him out and see if there's some when he was born. But it was just fascinating because he has an incredible portfolio, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, no, but he's a worker. He's a workaholic. He works nonstop every single day. It's like a heartbeat. He's a worker.
That's incredible, isn't it?
That's probably why we connect as well, because workers tend to work with workers.
Well, I think you identify well with them. I guess you have a mutual respect for when people do work hard. And, when you do work with them, you want to work as hard as them and at least sort of keep up, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Jan Velters is another that I love as well. I love to work with him. He's the complete opposite of Rankin. Rankin is very loud and very energetic and lots of assistants around, where Jan works more quietly, doesn't speak much. It's another vibe. But I adore what he creates as well.
And do you have any hairdressing fans, any people that you identify with or respect or,
Well, I respect very much Nicolas Jean-Jacques.
Yes.
Nicolas was one of the very first hairdressers I met when I landed in Paris 27 years ago. And I think he's absolutely genius what he can do with hair.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's genius, really.
And
amazing.
He doesn't seem to let up, I mean, I'm obviously following him very, very closely. And we had part of our conversation with him was about that his agent is concerned that he's not growing his Instagram following as much as he should. But he said, if I posted everything, it would be so boring because everything he's doing currently, it's just like ponytails. So, he said he wants to actually put inspirational work up. So, this is why he's not increasing his Instagram following as fast as his agent would like, which I thought was very interesting as well. And are you finding that with social media? Obviously you're not doing as much editorial now, but do you feel social media has an impact on your career, as far as competition with younger session stylists and at this stage?
Firstly, I'm going to say my Iles Formula business is global because of Instagram.
Yeah, yes.
We don't advertise. It's all word of mouth.
That's interesting.
Incredible. I would never imagine that possible ever, unless it had happened, which it did. Now, as a hairdresser, Wendy Iles, it's super, super challenging. And speaking about ponytail hairdressers, this is the part that's really frustrating. And I especially see it with makeup artists because, I work alongside what I was about to say was ponytail hairdressers are famous.
Yes.
For silly little ponytails because they just started that social media thing way long before we did. And they've got the following, and now they're just monstrous.
Yes, that's right.
So they have power, but they can't really dictate proper hairdressing, what I call proper hairdressing.
Oh, absolutely.
But who am I to say it? Because they've got the 200, 300,000 followers. I see it with makeup artists. I work alongside the most famous makeup artists out there. And where once they would get the contracts, there's many more contracts out there for makeup because you need to do often 4 different colours a year or 4 different collections a year. With hair products, once you've done it, it's done usually.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got these makeup artists dictating beauty through Instagram that have not had that elite education or education with finesse.
Yes.
However, they're super powerful. But this is why you have makeup that you can peel off. You have lashes that are too thick. You have tattooed eyebrows. You have fingernails out to here. And these are the elements that our young girls are looking at and believe are the statement of beauty.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I get horrified. They are now also the voice of makeup.
Yes.
So you get these makeup companies flying these Instagrammers with all these followers across the world to be their voice instead of these amazing, talented makeup artists.
And do you have a fave makeup artist? Who would you say you
Oh,
really...
there's many of them out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many makeup artists that I've worked with that are just absolutely
They're doing some
brilliant.
amazing stuff, aren't they?
Yes.
You know, I'm following them a lot, but I think you're probably talking about someone like Huda, or that has something like 8 million followers. But that plastic face, it's like, oh my God, are these people actually real under that?
You know, the real talent of a makeup artist, I believe, is when they have the capability to do makeup that looks so fresh and natural.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
So I'm probably going to lose a whole ton of followers because I just said that.
No, you're allowed to be honest, because I'm totally on your page there.
It really horrifies me. I see young girls dictating hair from their bedrooms on YouTube. I mean, scorching hair and no technique.
No.
You know, they've got 300,000 followers.
I know. Well, I don't know. There's lots of theories and thoughts on the social media. I mean, we can't live without it. And I'd love to think somehow the tables might turn, that there becomes an appreciation for more skilled people. But at this stage, they seem to be more savvy with what you can do with the, you know, IT options. This is what I'm finding. They're clever at doing filters. They're clever at changing the eyebrows. They're clever at making things look better.
That's the other thing. You get those makeup artists probably in a situation in front of a camera.
Oh, yes.
And that work is not clean.
No.
I mean, maybe saying that, maybe I'm wrong, but as you say, so many people work with filters. They hide behind filters, or they make the corrections before they place the posts up.
Look, we can love it or we can hate it. Obviously, it's been wonderful for your business, for your Iles Formula, to let it fly. And, you know, and I agree, for me too. You know, I wouldn't have the opportunity to travel and teach like I do if it hadn't have been for YouTube many, many years ago. And, you know, from then on, doing what I do, we can't deny that it's been a great tool for us to get our message out beyond our four walls internationally.
Certainly.
And it's those savvy people that have got the ability to really make it work and make it pay for themselves. You know, they're making a lot of money out there as well. So more power to them. It's just how it rolls.
No, absolutely. I mean, people say it's the future. I guess it is the future. But I just wish that there could be somewhere in between.
Yes.
You know, less people on their phones, enjoying the moment more. I mean, we hear this all the time. Even me, I'm very disciplined about my phone.
I wished I was. I'm a bit obsessed.
It's addictive. It really is.
I know. It does get you sucked in, doesn't it?
My husband banned the phone from the bedroom. So
well, actually, I banned the phone from my bedroom as well. I decided it was not worth walking upstairs with it when it pings all night. It's not much fun anymore.
Exactly.
So you think you might eventually make your way back to our wonderful Aussie shores?
I would adore to. These are my goals now. And I was speaking to someone at the weekend. One has to be very, very careful what you wish for in life, because if you want it hard enough, it's going to come to you.
Oh, absolutely.
And my dream for years back in Australia was to have this life in France, in this rambling country house in France. I got it. I got it all. I got beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember driving home because I live a little outside Paris in the countryside. I was driving home one night and I was thinking, oh gosh, it just struck me that I'm almost feeling like an orphan here because I didn't make that wish a good one. I should have said, let me have this life and then bring me home, which I didn't do. So now I have a 23-year-old daughter who's French with roots here in France, and it's not about me anymore.
No.
It's about family. So I need now to recreate that dream and, work my way back. But it would be, I would dream to come back for 4 months a year, to put a little ecological house somewhere there in the Australian bush, and then just lock it up, come back to Europe and live here because this is home now too, and do the aller-retour, do the there and back.
Sounds amazing.
And that would be perfect.
Do you still have family in Australia?
Oh, all my family are in Tasmania. And if I come back, it would be Tasmania.
Oh, well, then you'll definitely get the little house there. That won't be a problem.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Honestly, Wendy, it's just been such a privilege talking to you today. I just feel like I've known you forever, which is so nice. It's, just a natural conversation, and it's just been lovely to hear about your journey. I just hope the listeners will actually understand that, in this day and age, I don't think it's as predictable as it ended up being for you, that step from a salon into Vogue, mainly because I think the skill set of people these days is just so different. And why you've been able to be successful, I think, is because you've been able to have amazing technical skills which were formed at in your apprenticeship years, whereas that luxury doesn't happen on the floor today, as we know. It's a blast and a straightener, and then put a bit of a curl in it if that's what you want, bend it here and there, and that's supposedly dressing hair today. And it makes me very sad because it's not going to sustain people long term. We know that it's just a trend for now. And if they do have aspirations, they obviously need to do a lot more with that, move themselves out of that little skill set and add a lot more to it.
Especially for freelance work, because you need the ability to be able to do 360 degrees with hair.
Yeah.
So when you walk in, for an advertising job, for example, you're given a maquette and they'll say, this is how we want the hair. Now, you have to be able to reproduce that.
Yes.
To the strand.
Yeah.
They don't want to know any different. So you need to have the confidence and the knowledge to be able to do that. If you're on an editorial job, you'll all look at the clothes and then you'll decide. And it's usually the hair first. So first of all, you're looking at the clothes, and then it'll be the hairdresser. You'll decide where you're going to take the hair, and then the makeup usually follows. Hair is super important.
Yes.
It can make or break an image. It can also turn an image in a certain direction.
Yes.
So you might have a fabulous couture gown, or you might have an amazing Japanese abstract type outfit. It'll be the hair that will dictate what that image is about in the end.
So what would you advise someone today, some young person out there, what would your advice be today for if this is an aspiration for them to move forward into the arena that you've worked in so much? What would your, a couple of pearls of wisdom?
Today it's very different. When I started, nobody knew what a freelancer was. I was one of the first ones. So today, I think you have to assist an already established freelancer. You choose a great freelancer that you want to work alongside, or a couple, and you become their assistant. That way you get to see how the ropes work in a studio, on set, on location, in private locations even. When you're working with a freelancer that works with celebrities, for example, old school rules really rule. I believe.
Right.
Because you are in their home environment often.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting there in their bathrobe in their bathrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and you're around their children. Yeah, you're in their private space. So, none of this modern day iPhone-y thing. iPhones are off. They're in the bottom of your case. You're in private space. You have to really respect that. So I guess learn the ropes by being with a senior.
Right.
Find out who that is and keep knocking on the door. Show your enthusiasm until they accept to have you there. And when you're there, be the most professional that you can possibly be, because this is becoming less and less and less.
Yes. Sound advice. Thank you for that. Well, we're going to wrap up, and I just want to say thank you so much. I hope that next time you come to Australia that we will meet. It would be lovely to sort of keep in touch. And next time you're in Sydney, we can catch up and chat
Let's
face
have a
to
little
face.
aperitif together.
We could absolutely do that. So
I hope maybe I will be coming home at some point. So possibly September or October.
Yes, well, let's see what we can do time-wise. Let's see that it may happen. Wendy, thank you so much for your time. It's just been so seamless to make this work today, and it's just been such a privilege chatting with you. And I'm sure our listeners will be, being glued to their seats for the whole of this conversation. And good luck with Iles Formula. Hopefully they'll follow that. We'll put a link up for them so they can check out your fabulous products, and hopefully they'll be, interested in contacting you direct about, possibly taking on board your product as well. So thank you so much, and let's keep chatting, and let's see if we can connect with that little drinky poo when you get to Sydney.
Oh, absolutely. It's on my agenda. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Hairy Chats. I look forward to catching up with Wendy to hear more about her wonderful journey and her story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast. Stay tuned for my next episode of Hairy Chats next month with my famous international friends.